Good, thank you.
Let me start over.
No, that's fine.
Oh, okay.
We're just talking about 23, 25. There was a mute issue. We just went over what we were going to do for the day, talking about agenda items number 1, and we're saying 23, 25, we're looking at the video conferencing. There you go. Caught up to speed for minutes purposes.
So do we want to just pull them all up or?
No, one at a
Okay.
time. 'cause
No,
the
that's what I
computer-
mean, like
yeah.
one at a time.
Yeah.
Like 2310,
You wanna start there?
sure, that's just regular meetings.
I had no edits to that
I
one.
didn't see any, there was a little typo. Oh, it's not in here, it was on the one I printed, so it's already been fixed. Tim, did you have any?
I don't.
Okay,
I'm good.
I'll say for this whole group, I did not have any edits.
okay, so you didn't see any typos or anything?
No.
Okay.
2310 is good for final read on the
Final
board.
read, yeah.
Oh, is it? Oh, okay, yep, sorry.
2325 is the new video conferencing of board meetings, which we didn't have this policy, but this was already the existing law. Now it's just kind of in a policy.
The only question I have is where it says video conference location open to public. Does
Yeah.
that need to be there in italics or no?
I don't care.
Where's it
Probably
in
not.
italics?
And
Right underneath
the
2320.
subheading?
Yeah, does that need to
Oh.
be there?
Location open to the public.
It doesn't
That was,
matter.
from an ISBA carryover because they had the 2 sections,
Right.
which we don't have the 2 sections anymore, so I don't think we need it personally,
think I'm not.
unless anyone thinks it's helpful.
It can come out.
Do you care if we take that out, Tim?
Nope.
Okay. So Frank and I were talking about this policy. We just have to keep it in mind now with future practice. We just have to disclose if someone's open to the public, but not here. We have to put that in our notices. and
So whenever we're not going to be here, we got to say, here's where I'm going to be,
Yes,
and be specific,
Mhm.
and then make sure you're in a place that
it's open to the public.
somebody can join you.
And it also has to be listed on the agenda. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, we
Tim?
have to disclose it on the meeting notice.
So
The next one's the.
let's say September 27th, right? RG, like you may or may not be remote.
I will be.
Well, okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So that one, when we do the agenda for next week, and I'm also saying it for Jess too, that we'll put, wherever you're going to be, it'll be there, and then you'll post it. You'll have a posting that you're there as well. Because you're supposed to post, right, Tim? You're supposed to post it in the public place
Yeah,
because you've done it.
yeah.
Before, so-
And so people will know where you're at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you're okay with that, I mean, there's times when you might go some places and you just do not have people know where you're at.
If it's like
Um,
Texas or
I'm
California.
But if you're going to
Yeah.
participate in this meeting, we got to do that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
perfect.
Right,
Yeah.
There could be
Alright, good.
times when you might say, you know what, I really can't
You have to sit this one out.
participate, I'm going to have to sit it out. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's perfect. Okay.
I think in that respect, you could still join. You just wouldn't
Don't
count
count as
towards the
quorum.
No.
quorum.
You might not be able to
Actually,
vote.
No, the old school way of video conferencing, because we had one of my former boards, and I double checked with Gervin Ferrazzo, who we use currently. That is not acceptable. The only way under the old rules is you can't even join unless it's noticed on your public meeting address and the person is in an open forum. Otherwise, you cannot go. That's why they were making the
Okay.
change to give it, but the old way is very clear. Video
This is not
conferencing-
streaming live. I
No.
mean,
This is recorded.
a board meeting. I mean.
No,
No.
board meeting is not.
Okay, because like I was going to suggest, if it was streaming live, you could be an audience member.
Yeah,
Right,
but that's it.
But
yeah.
you can't do that
but
anymore.
we're not streaming.
We're not
No.
streaming live.
Yeah, but old school ways we're right back to like prior COVID. So there was some nice like benefits of,
There were.
of the COVID time.
Yeah.
So
So everyone's
Well, if
good
anyone
with,
wants to join me at the Sheridan Niagara Falls on Tuesday, they are welcome.
maybe I will. Sounds lovely.
Eh,
Okay, we're good with what?
nothing. We got to finalize that
All right.
agenda.
Next one.
Okay, 2325 is done. 2340, notice of meetings, excuse me.
Second read.
This, if video conferencing is used to conduct a meeting where remote locations are open to the public notice for the meeting will indicate that video conferencing will be used. specify the location for the meeting and state that the public may attend at any of these locations. So not a new rule, but a new practice for us.
Works.
Anyone have any edits?
Nope.
No.
Okay. So that one's good for a final read.
Yep.
And then the last one in this group is 2360. And these are minutes. I put the district, third paragraph, the district clerk or designee. I don't know, that was just kind of my own wording. They didn't have that in the district one.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know if we'd want someone else to be able to, if our district
Yeah, I
clerk.
think we talked about that last time.
That's a good idea.
Okay. That's the only place I really strayed
And
from.
then this had something about, this last paragraph, unabridged video or audio
Mhm.
recordings or unabridged written transcripts can be used as minutes made available to the public as such. Now, are we gonna do that as our normal practice?
I would suggest
No.
it. What, the
Yes,
minutes?
but we're also
We're
going to
still
do
gonna do
written.
minutes.
Right, but the video conferencing can cover for the 2-week minimum.
Right,
Yes.
Yeah.
As long as we have it posted.
right.
But we're not gonna do transcripts and say we're not doing minutes because of that.
Okay.
I think the question that I'm going to ask is for committee meetings, and we're going to actually ask about this at curriculum, talk about it a little bit, is how in-depth are the minutes going to go? Because minutes really only have to be actionable items and what the conversation is. And if you've looked at some of the minutes from our committee meetings, they're very in-depth.
Mhm.
I mean, do we go that in-depth anymore since we're doing the video conferencing already and we do the, or do we continue to write in-depth minutes? Because that was, because you have the video now. So that's the question, because it takes manpower and time
Right.
to write all those in-depth minutes and look it over. So I think that's going to have to be discussion by committee, or board, but it just does seem like a redundancy if you're doing so in-depth when you already have the video to do it.
Yeah. I'm gonna say I like the summary of the discussion.
Mhm.
I know it's more of a burden on you and Jess, but I like to have that as a reference if I need to go back and say, I know this was discussed, and I can quickly scroll through minutes as opposed to scrolling through a 60-page transcript.
And
It's
the other
just
advantage,
a
and I
time
agree with
saver
you,
for me.
the other advantage to it is, we're supposed to approve the minutes.
Mhm.
So you're going back, and we're not approving the video.
Right.
Per se, we're gonna do a transcript and say, yeah, that's what we talked about. That's how I recollect it. Those were the votes as I remember them.
But I'm just going to the legal requirement for a committee meeting. It's really, there's no voting.
When
and
it
you don't
comes to,
have do
when it comes to
summaries.
committee,
That's all I'm saying. I want to make sure everyone's on the same page and that each committee does the same minutes, because not each committee is equal in the minutes that they create either.
well, you got different people doing it. too.
That's why I just think maybe we should just have a conversation. If we're going to do the minutes a certain way, maybe we should have a continuum across the board. So
I don't know how easily that is accomplished.
it's not.
Because, because I'm gonna say, that, I mean, like, some of our stuff here might be pretty in-depth conversations. And on some of these committees, it might be,
Right.
they're just pro forma. So I don't know.
I just wanted to bring that up.
All right.
I've noticed it.
I mean, I do agree with RG. It is a lot easier if you're trying to look back to look at minutes. But if it was very brief and you saw the bullet, then I guess you could then know, okay, now I can look at that video. But it is easier to have. I don't
It
know.
doesn't need to say Frank said this or RG said this. It can just be, here's the conversation. Here's, yeah. Because sometimes I've seen minutes that were very almost
Could be bullets.
dictations. Yeah.
Oh, dictation.
yeah,
That's
so
the
we-
other extreme.
Right. I've seen both. I've seen it all. So I think we just need to confirm summaries. Perfect. Generic topic of kind of what the main focus of the conversation was. I think that meets the needs. Is that
So, yeah, I think so. I'm
Yeah.
interested in the highlights of the discussion.
the meat and potato?
The board received information concerning this from this person. These issues were discussed. That's enough.
Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah.
We don't need a whole lot because we have the video back
Right.
up.
Yep.
But I do agree with you, that some sort of a summary, because most people would probably want the summary.
Right.
They don't want to spend all their time looking through 45 minutes worth of video.
I have a question for the board that's completely off topic. Would you be fine if they tested the bells right now while we're having our meeting?
Sure. I don't mind.
I've been wanting to hear that.
Oh, they need to get changed. It was, the kids voted on it during COVID.
Oh, that's fun.
So now that COVID's over, I feel like it might be time to vote again and have another one. I wanted the Batman theme, but the draft pick actually won.
Which one?
The draft pick, then you'll hear it.
We're about to hear it.
Yeah, the ESPN draft pick won. I wanted the Batman. They lost.
Maybe next time.
Yeah.
How often do you get to vote?
They've only, so I did it during COVID. I said we should do it because I thought it was going to be fun and kids need something to look forward to. Bell's easy, right? So that was the one time we did it. You get one vote and that's all there is. So I'd like to do it again. I think it'd be fun for the kids. And we had the student government kids picked, right? So they worked with their classmates. They all
came
picked,
up with the
they came up
options.
the options and then they voted as like a school district. It was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
That's
fun.
Yeah. All right, where do we go?
Okay,
Madam Chair.
all right. I wouldn't mind jumping to 3 because I found that easier. I
Okay.
got myself all confused in number 2. but-
6741.
So 6741.
Yeah, this is a different format. Why is that?
I don't know.
Uh,
Probably however you cut and paste.
This is-
These are existing.
Yeah, these are existing policies. So this is the.
Oh, so this is out of
current
our
policy.
policy
yeah,
manual.
yeah.
Okay. This is not a NISBA proposal.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Beth makes them and cleans them up.
I getcha.
Yeah, she cleans it all. It takes a lot
I
of
get
it.
So 6741 for people listening is contracting for professional services. And this came up during one of our audits. There's a little bit of discrepancy, between this and the 6700E purchasing exhibit. And Frank took it to Jim, who had his recommendations, which I gave to you guys on the agenda. I don't know if people have opinions, if you want me to read what he said. He basically was fine with 6741 and he made a recommendation to change 6700E.
67.
So on 6700E, if you get all the way to near the bottom, professional services, it says currently the board shall determine if bidding is required for professional services of 20,000, which obviously kind of weird just for that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then the purchasing agent shall determine if an RFP is required for services under 20,000.
so Jim's suggestion, I think, was the first sentence should say of greater than 20,000,
Mm-hmm.
but then that leaves, if we leave the second sentence alone, that leaves 20,000
Yeah.
unaccounted for.
Right.
Right.
So the way the schedule's written, I think we need to change the second sentence. Purchasing agents shall determine if an RFP is required for services of 20,000 or less.
Okay.
Because that would match the schedule where it goes to the 20,000,
Mhm.
Correct.
right? And then you can keep the first sentence consistent with Jim's suggestion, greater than 20,000.
Greater than. That works for me.
I'm fine with
I
that.
think it works.
Jess, you grab that? Oh,
Can't hear it.
Archie, can you repeat that?
So the first in the 6700-E, under professional services, it would say the board shall determine if bidding is required for professional services greater than 20,000. The second sentence would say the purchasing agent shall determine if an RFP is required for services of $20,000 or less.
I got it.
And that is consistent with
You want to
the
put in an of
schedule.
there, right after the word services.
Oh, thank you, Tim.
You got it.
And then Jim was just saying the only drawback to doing this is we've had situations where the currently proposed project would have been delayed until the review by the committee and then board to determine methods, which requires more lead time. I don't know. If we're gonna have this, I don't know how you avoid that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the only categories where it would come up, as Jim said, are pretty narrow, and those are the types of contracts that we award once during the year.
Mhm.
And then in our organizational meeting, we make the appointment, so I
Pretty
don't see
limited
it
impact.
causing many issues where we, and if we had a need where, our attorney was no longer available, or we decided not to engage them anymore, that would probably require a meeting anyway.
Right.
So I think I don't see this leading to much disruption. I see his point, but
Right.
I think it's gonna come up so infrequently that it's
Yeah.
not a problem.
I think where he's going is like, let's say in the middle of our project, we say, I'm not happy with the architect. I go to you guys and I say, we need a new architect. That might, like, that's where he's saying it could be an issue, but I agree. It's going to be so few and far between.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because I was gonna ask, your experience, is 20,000 a normal threshold?
Yeah. I mean, the state's thresholds are pretty low. And
Huh?
they're pretty low already.
20,000,
Yeah. I
that's
think,
low.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm going to go by Jim's recommendation.
I'm
of
okay
20.
with that, but
Yeah.
I, as we're going into like a building project, I
Yeah.
don't know if is that gonna come up regularly?
Well, I think what you want to look at is how much local control do you want the school to have, and how much local control does the board want to have when it comes to the expenditure of taxpayer money,
I
right?
get you. I get you.
And if you want to give me 50,000, that there comes a time where people will want the checks and balances.
Absolutely.
So I think 20 for me, the transparency works with the 20 because it is taxpayer
Yes,
funds.
true.
So I'm fine with keeping it 20.
And it's been 20?
It's been 20.
And this is in the category of professional services, which is a pretty narrow
Yeah.
category where bidding is,
Well,
For the
that's
most part,
true,
not
that's true.
required.
You're right, you're right.
And it was
So-
already updated, and we've already increased these rates, by the way. I believe, didn't we increased them in 2020?
I'm good.
Yeah,
I don't
so,
remember.
yeah,
It was
so,
amended in 2020. I don't know if the amounts were.
I believe the amounts were because it was 3,000 to 5,000, for 2 written quotes. It was actually under 3 before. It
Okay.
was less than for the purchases. So. And eventually those might need to be changed too, to be honest with you. Because it seems like prices are skyrocketing.
Right.
It's unbelievable.
Is everyone good with this, or were there anything else in this policy that people found? I didn't find any other edits.
Now, there's a 6700R, is
Yeah.
that different?
Are we good for moving on from this, though?
Oh,
Are you RG? 6700, okay. 6700R, there's a typo that Jim pointed out.
I don't think 6700R was included. in
Yeah, I
the
don't think-
Materials, but it's.
oh,
yeah,
okay,
that's not here.
yeah, all right, I don't have it.
So for
It's
Jess,
it's just a correction.
Yeah.
it's 6700R, let's see, part
The typo, maybe?
5, B2, public work contracts up to 35,000, and then under A, it says it should be 5,000, quotes are not
500.
required, and currently it says 500.
Right.
So,
Our policy's 5,000, that makes sense.
so for our board meeting then, I am assuming we can bring 6700R and 6700E for a revision read and vote, right?
Yep.
Okay. All right, look at us.
Killing it.
Yeah. And then comes the harder one for me, at least. You guys maybe not. Okay. I guess the next section would be the ones Frank and Shauna did yesterday and got to us last night. People had time to try to take a look. So policy 4526. I don't know, pull that up. Okay, now this was an existing policy, right?
Yes,
Yes.
is that the format we need to be looking at?
I'm double checking right now. There's 2, right?
I have several 4526s, and one is the existing policy, and I think NISBA's recommendation or proposals.
I also noticed when I
Separate.
was poking around online that we have a 4526.1 and a .1R. I don't know if those are loaded.
No, I think, so let's just go,
Okay,
Tim, you're doing the search option that I showed you.
Yes,
That's not gonna work for this one because then it's pulling up all of them.
yes,
Oh.
it is.
Yeah, that's the problem. So if you go to the share drive and do the agenda, it will have 4526, the one that we want to use.
Oh, okay, I got it.
I believe we did 4526R. Jessica, did I give you the updates for R or did I give you the updates for 4526? Oh, thank you. So 4526 we did not update. I updated R.
Okay, so computer usage instruction.
toward the bottom.
There it is. It's on the bottom of 4526.
Okay, and it is in different color and there's strikeouts.
Yes.
So
Yep.
you can
Okay,
see what we
got it.
changed.
Discs. Not using discs
No, not
anymore?
using discs anymore. Sean and I went through this, and what we were looking at is there a lot of redundancy in this policy and the 5695, the one that we don't have. She said, that's already kind of in here and already met. So she didn't recommend the 5695 for the individual student policy. And that was, we just developed it based off of this because the cell phone's already there. Now, if the board wants to allow cell phones or disallow cell phones, that's a whole different option. But right now, the code of conduct already states should only be utilized if the teacher gives them permission to do so.
So
Some
yes.
districts are at the point where they're getting rid of cell phones. I personally don't agree with that.
Georgia school did it,
Yeah.
you can't use them during the day.
Yeah.
You gotta like deposit, you can
Yeah.
have them in between class, but you gotta drop it in a
Yeah.
cubby for every class.
Yes, I personally would like I'd like to teach the kids how to use a cell phone appropriately than hinder the use of a cell phone.
When you say cell phones are already in there, you don't mean this policy, you mean the code of
In the
conduct.
code of conduct,
Right.
correct.
So 5695, the title was students and personal electronic devices.
Yeah,
So I understand what you're saying, I'm just
Yeah.
making sure everyone knew.
but when we did the revisions, we did take that into account when we looked at the internet access for this, knowing that kids may have cell phones or may have the ability to use internet, that was accounted for when we were looking into this policy. So for internet access, students may have restricted internet access for educational purpose, only for educational, that's section 2 of 4526R. Yeah. So they won't be able to access our network, and it's creating an ability to be able to have like cyber issues or any cybersecurity issues, but they will be able to access internet for internet purposes.
Can you say that again to me?
So not like the H drive or any of the internal network systems. They can only, it's like the cake. They can't access the cake. They can only access the icing on top of the cake. And it's also filtered and restricted as well on top of that.
And I see, students will not be able to participate in chat rooms. Students are permitted to use Google Chat at the discretion of the building administrator. No other chat rooms are permitted. How is that monitored?
In the classroom. And we try to do it through Lightspeed when they're utilizing it, but you can't utilize it the whole time. Like if a kid has a cell phone and they have a chat room open, we can't monitor that.
Yeah.
But if we see them using it and it's going against our code of conduct saying the misuse of the cell phone, then we can address the situation. But you can't limit
We
everything.
can't be proactive in this regard.
No,
Now, what if they're doing it at home? That's not your network?
not our network.
So their Gmail, their Google Classroom accounts, not the schools?
But we can cut that off. If they're using our Chromebook and they're using their login for our Chromebook, then we can cut off their Google Chat. That's why
While they're at home?
a lot of the schools already have, like the middle school already has Google Chat turned off on a lot of their
Oh, so you're
devices.
saying you do it through a time thing?
It depends on
So
like
at the end
some.
of the school day, they can't get at it?
No, sometimes they don't have the Google Chat on feature at all. Like, I was told that some building principals say, I don't want the chat feature on at all for classroom use, so it's just not on. If they use it at home, it's not on unless it's put on the Google system. So Shauna would have to turn it on based off of a direction.
But if they have an internet connection, they can.
Right.
At home, yeah.
Oh,
If they go onto their own
Google
internet,
Chat
they can do
and
whatever
go
they
on
want.
any-
Yeah.
Right,
chat.
that's
Yeah.
where I get confused, what's your network versus, I mean, obviously I understand the internet is at their
Yeah,
home.
if they
But it's
log
the
on,
school
not
Google.
using, if they're not logged on to the school fmccree at Voorheesville.org, and they're logged on at fmccree.fm@gmail, then they can do whatever they want.
But what if they are logged on to the
Then
Voorheesville.org?
there's no Google. It depends on what they're
Not in
allowed
that
to and
account.
filtered. Depends on what's on the filter.
But I guess I'm trying to say, can someone go and see what they're doing at home if they're
Like
logged
us?
in? Yeah,
No, we don't have the ability to do that. Lightspeed was the only way to do that, and that's only when the teacher's here. We can revert back and try to run a report that would show if somebody used Google.
Okay.
But we don't have the ability to monitor. Only the teachers have the ability to monitor the kids using Lightspeed while they're in the classroom.
Okay.
Now, there is a regulation per the state that we did on our cybersecurity that we are, as a school, supposed to monitor and have the ability to monitor students at all time during the school day, in order for us to be in compliance with that state law. Or it's federal, I think. But we're supposed to have a monitoring capability. That's like being able to log in, make sure that there's no misuse of our computers.
Double-edged
Yeah,
sword.
Yeah, that's
I'd
why
have
we.
to see more on how monitoring is
Yeah.
defined, because I think it could be pretty broad. and
It
not-
is, and that's what.
Not inclusive of like watching what someone's doing on their device,
Yeah.
but having controls around the network.
And that's what we
that
currently
constitute
have, right.
monitoring.
Lightspeed, so some schools have it where they monitor if someone writes in, I want to kill myself. And those trigger words would come up, and then they would notify somebody if that came up, so that would happen. We do not have that at our district right now. I brought that up before, and I think that was kind of like, no, we didn't want to go there, from what the committees were saying at that time. So we don't have that. We have a very simple monitoring system where it's systems of controls, but then in the classroom, the teacher can have Lightspeed on Google so they can monitor what the kid is currently doing on their Google document, keeping them on task. And then when they leave, it goes away.
We have a soft touch.
Very soft. Which can be good and or bad. So if somebody's like researching guns and the library and how to build pipe bombs, we don't have the ability to monitor that.
it's a very fine line
So that's
between
that's
privacy and safety.
Yep.
I don't think there's any easy
Nope.
answer.
Damned if you do, damned if you don't.
I don't know, yeah.
But we do have filters though that stop those things from coming up. So
True.
in all theory, if someone said, how do I do X, and it's not a good thing, the filter should block that and not allow that to go on. And it should also then notify us that someone's trying to get on the block content.
Have
That
you done
does
any
happen.
testing of that?
No, I have not. In theory, that's how it's supposed to work.
Yeah, I think, because those filters sometimes need teaching.
Yep.
So
Yeah,
that
so-
would be a good project.
Yeah, and we use NARIC for that. So it's
Yeah.
not an in-house, because if it was in-house, I'd be a little bit more nervous, but since Northeast Regional Information Center is in control of that for us, I have a little bit more faith that those are better systems. Because
Yeah.
they're vested and they're doing all that work all the time.
Well, you want a little arm's length here.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, I know.
So considering the evolution of language and,
Yeah.
new
Yeah.
words popping up all the time,
Yeah, they constantly
doesn't-
update their filters, they tell
it
us.
doesn't hurt to
Yep.
try and beat the system.
I've done it a couple of times myself.
Can I ask,
Yep.
the bullet, all users will be prohibited from accessing social network sites, playing online games.
Where is that?
Under internet access, like
It's in section 2.
section 2,
Thank
like
you.
5 bullets down.
Oh, yeah, that's the one that we currently
What about
have.
like Kahoot?
That's different. That's an instructional game.
Okay. Got it. And then it also says personal email services. So like if someone were using their Chromebook to check their personal email, that's not allowed.
Correct. Problem is that your personal email may have a bug or a phishing item on it, and then we open that up and it comes in, then we have an issue. Hence the reason
You
we're
can do
trying.
it when you're not connected to the district's internet
Correct.
connection.
That's why we're trying to very limit those things, because our cybersecurity insurance,
Right.
I mean, nobody wants to insure school districts anymore because there's no liability. So in order for us to even have insurance anymore, we have to have a 2-factor authentication. We have to show all of these different things. And even then, our coverage is very minimal.
Limited coverage.
Very, yeah. So
Also, the. in
Sad
that
we have to think that way now.
Same
but-
section, the second cross out says students are not allowed to belong to mailing lists, but then that's added down below the bullet before the last one, students are not allowed to belong to mailing lists. Do you want that in? Or
I don't
not
know,
want that
Jess, is there a reason why that's crossed out and then added? I don't have Shauna's edits. Yeah, I think that's just supposed to be deleted. Yeah, that's just supposed to be deleted.
That's not the winning bell, is it?
Yeah,
Oh, that is.
That's draft though.
It's on draft.
Did Shauna have that
That's
as
on
being
That's
there?
on red zone, isn't it?
That
Oh,
was
yeah, we just gotta
ES
review it.
That was ESPN.
She's gonna review it and
It's
see
on red
what
zone.
Shauna recommended. Because Shauna, I'm looking at Shauna as being the expert.
That
on this
wouldn't
one.
have been my vote for a bill, no.
Kids loved it.
At that last bullet, a staff member will be required to monitor all of these activities,
A staff member can be our CTS,
which I get,
Delegate,
but it's
yeah.
just like,
but we have to.
yeah.
We have to have
Okay.
somebody, like, so NARIC is our monitoring system, our
Okay.
IT person is our monitoring system, so there are monitoring abilities that we have, so.
Seems like an
But if-
overwhelming task.
But it's not necessarily a staff member?
Doesn't have to, well, anyone who works for the district or is contracted as services for the district is included as staff. So like CTS is,
I mean, you could say, simply say that all activities will be monitored. And we're not assigning it to a staff member. Maybe you have to say that legally, I don't know.
this is NISBA's language. Like, we didn't change that. So that's,
Well, they may not take into account like a NARIC.
yeah. So we can say,
Well, I'm not,
don't exit out, Jess, we're gonna
don't
keep
exit
it.
out. But, yeah, you're gonna keep that element, but you want, if you wanted to be a little more broadly stated, you could state it differently, but that's fine with me.
Why don't we just do a staff member or designee?
Okay.
Okay.
That's our catch-all. Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
I don't mind making these edits, or you,
No.
if you want to. I think she's leaving in like 10 minutes.
He can do it.
He can do. Yeah.
I'm like,
She had
launch
the
from
four-
the
she had the
internet.
420.
I was trying to use my phone as the hotspot.
Uh-oh.
It's not working either.
You're just a mess. You're just a mess today.
I know. Tell me about
The
it.
last one, we're just gonna put activities will be monitored.
Okay.
Yeah, that covers it, and
Can we go up 2 bullets right there? And we just say, we'll have individual email addresses instead of email address,
One right of, yeah,
2 above.
2.
Students will have individual email addresses.
Addresses.
right.
Then the first bullet says, got some weird spacing issues, but let's just clean up.
Yeah. Enduring is spelled wrong.
Well, it's fixed on my version.
Oh, wait. Maybe. Oh, there's dirt on my screen.
That was funny.
I'm like, wait, my printout is fine. Oh, boy. All right. Everyone okay with section 2?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Section 3, the second bullet, inappropriate use may result in the suspension of that privilege. I was just curious, like, if you kick a kid off the network, what do they do?
They gotta do written paperwork.
The teacher has to give them everything written.
Who we punish you?
I
know. But again, if somebody's misusing it in a way that
No,
You know,
there has to be.
there's gotta be a punishment, but it is a punishment across the board.
Oof.
Again, they're not using these all the time, but they're using them.
We're gonna give you a modem and an AOL account.
Trish, I think one of the bullets really kind of goes to what you were just talking about,
Okay.
where there's a cross-off. Only those network users, we're not registering devices. That's a whole different animal that
Yes.
we are not
That was
tackling.
scary.
Yeah, so Sean and I
Mhm.
agree that that's not an animal that we want to go to. And only those network users,
You can get rid of that or.
yeah, I was just gonna say, who have been issued a district-owned device may ask the district system from offsite. So,
Yep.
And that kind of access where you were going.
Okay.
So they'll have access to like the H drive or things like that. That's all.
I didn't necessarily have any other, there was a bullet again that was crossed out and then re-added. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The 8th down, any network user identified as a security risk or having a history of violations is added there. And then at the very, not the very end, but see the strikeout 2 bullets before the end, it's struck out.
Yeah.
I think it needs to be
The
in
first-
there.
No, it needs to be in there.
Okay, just making sure. That was the only thing I saw in this section. Other people had any edits or questions?
So where is this now? You say
It ended up being fine, that it was added and crossed out.
you already took care of it?
Just it.
We're just gonna leave it as
Okay,
added.
got it.
Good with section 3.
Yeah, I'm good with 3. You good, Tim?
Yep.
All right, section 4.
Wanted to add the following list includes yet is not limited to,
Mm-hmm.
just because there's so many different issues that can come up.
So a list you can add to as needed.
I had a couple of just questions. The one bullet talks about our code of conduct. It refers to, it's kind of in the middle, using the network to receive, transmit, make available to others a message that is inconsistent with the district's code of conduct. Frank, this is kind of where I was saying how this policy kind of ties into the
So
code.
that, yeah.
That's kind of where, I mean, I think
Yeah.
it's fine to reference it here.
Which one? I don't see code of conduct. Am I wrong?
Um,
I use network to receive, transmit, or make available to others
I don't
obscene
think
or
the
offensive,
word, I
sexual,
don't think the
explicit
word code of
material.
conduct.
I see available to others offensive or sexually explicit material, which is in the code of conduct.
Right.
But
The next bullet down, Frank.
Yeah.
We're missing an O in the second prohibited, and then pornographic is spelled wrong.
I see that. Why isn't spell check coming up?
Maybe chronographic is a word.
Maybe.
I don't think prohibited is though.
the code of conduct part is just further down then. Okay, so you have the same bullet twice, but one has code of conduct.
Okay.
So if you, as we get down further, you're gonna see the using the network to receive, like right here, see where I am?
I'm going. Yep, I see it. No.
That's where the code of conduct came in, where it
Oh.
made me, I think that's the same bullet, so you probably don't want both, and then I don't know if you want code of conduct or you don't.
All right. No, there's two bullets.
Yeah,
I'm gonna get rid of this one because it's the same thing, right?
one says code of conduct, one doesn't.
Well, I think it's two different things.
Yeah, because
right?
there's racist in there.
One's got racist, sexist, abusive, harassment.
Exactly,
The
it is
other
different.
Okay.
Broader.
Yeah, no, they're different.
Just a couple of typo things.
Yep.
In the installing personal software, it looks like we have like a weird highlight.
Well,
on the second
should we take away
personal.
personal disks? Can you install a personal disk?
Can you do a thumb, I don't know, on a Chromebook, can you do a thumb drive?
Do any of this list?
If you
You could
say in
have it
personal
external.
software, that could be.
Yeah,
You could have, someone could have an
I mean,
external.
personal software could be on any device, right?
or external software, right? Why don't we just say that?
Yeah,
External
that would
software.
work.
Makes sense.
And then the next bullet, we have 2 periods at the
We
end.
took that off already.
Okay, good,
Gotcha.
thanks.
Saw that one before.
Good.
See. Oh, there it is, the code of conduct.
Yeah. And
So here's my question though. I feel like this policy actually needs to go in the code of conduct. Right? Like,
well, the code of conduct has a lot of this.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I want to make sure it aligns. So that's when we were talking about the review.
We'll talk about that section
Will it
next,
align,
but,
right?
and
Why don't we just incorporate in the code of conduct, compliance with the computer use and instruction policy,
Oh, that's a good idea.
and then it's all there. We don't have to worry about keeping them in sync.
Yeah. I like that idea.
I did, when I was looking at the code of conduct, not to get off topic, but that's the next group, kind of. Ours hasn't been updated to include like the cyberbullying and the definition of that. And when I was reviewing this, I'm like, well, that's kind of in the same vicinity. And then when I went to the
Yeah.
code of conduct, it wasn't in there, but we'll talk about that.
Does the code of conduct need to have the explicit language rather than a reference to, I don't know if,
No, it doesn't. As long as your policies,
I understand, I'm thinking about somebody actually reading the code of conduct.
so code of conducts are twofold,
I'm
right?
probably being naive when I
Yeah.
say this.
So, well, it's twofold from two different perspectives, right? So they're in there and reading it is right, but it also should be taught. But it's also what's in it and what's in our policies and for what we can be suspending or having our processes for. So as long as a policy for us, say I suspend a child for stealing data and intellectual property, even though that might not be explicitly listed in our code of conduct, as long as I have a board policy that states that you can't do that, then I can suspend,
No,
right?
I understand.
Yeah.
I guess what I would say is, wouldn't it make sense to just take that policy word for word,
Yeah.
throw it in the code of conduct so they match?
There's good, because then your code of conduct sometimes can end up being
Mhm.
a dictionary.
Well, I'm just thinking about this
Yeah.
section here, but maybe
Yeah,
there's
I have to look at the code and see
The
exactly
code
what's
of
in it.
conduct's already.
It's already
like
used.
20,
Yeah.
something pages.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I do
I don't
see what
know.
you're saying, and I agree with you that people need to know. Well, I said today to my principals, I said, we know we're in compliance, but do they know what compliance means?
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of where, and I see what you're saying.
You have the
People
legal
understand.
backup there.
Yeah.
But somebody might say, well, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think that comes from
I
a good
think you
teaching.
still have to include language in the code like we do already at a high level about, use of computers, right? 'Cause
Yeah.
we do have the, if there's a
You gotta sign off.
standalone
Yep.
policy that you have to sign off.
Yeah.
Use of, I can't remember what it's called.
Right.
What, you're telling me that this is taught?
It should be taught more,
Well,
but yes,
so
it
the
is
code
taught
of
in some
conduct,
ways.
where and when?
In classrooms, during different ideas, during assemblies, in like our computer class in the middle school right now, she's doing STEM stuff, and she's
So
teaching
it's
keyboarding.
it's a reference document that people use
Well,
as
they
needed?
don't teach it. They teach, we shouldn't steal other people's
We
emails.
can't do that because our code of conduct prohibits
Well,
that.
we don't say code of conduct. We just say we shouldn't do. This isn't the right thing to do.
It's a teaching.
Yeah. We don't, like, when we're talking about proper use of computers or doing those things, it's more like as a parenting. Don't do that. It's not right. We don't say it comes specifically through our code of conduct. So it's not like our code of conduct says we can't. We just say, this isn't the right thing to do. This is how you do it. Does that make a little bit more sense? We're not using it in that way with the,
It provides the guidelines that people need in order to convey this information.
yes.
Yes, and at the beginning of the school year, every kid signs a code of conduct acknowledgement, and there's certain like computer use policies that they have to read and acknowledge as well.
Okay. All right, so
So-
there you go.
It's reinforced in multiple ways.
Yeah.
Can people miss some of the nuances? Sure.
Yeah. But like let's say in fourth grade, when the teacher's going over Chromebooks and going over accounts, they'll say, don't share your password. You're not supposed to log on to someone else's account. So they do teach those things.
So this
Yeah.
listing here of all these different items, is that something that a kid would sign off?
In middle school and high school, they have to
So
acknowledge.
verbatim, right?
Similar. I don't think it's verbatim. I'd have to
I don't
look at
remember,
it.
yeah, I
It's-
gotta look at what the actual one says.
Technically, yes, Tim, but it's very much like when you sign up, if you want to add an app on your phone and you just have to check, yes, I've read all of the above. I do think personally, especially with the new privacy that we have light speed or light share or whatever, it's not a bad conversation for a teacher to have. Like, look, we got these new Chromebooks, we can see everything.
Yeah.
Put it out there.
Well, not only that, kids also need to know that they shouldn't be doing these things. Right?
Oh, that
Like,
too, but I feel like we've added that new level, and let's just be upfront about it, and explicitly upfront.
Yeah, like all, well, like all districts are doing that. We don't do it consistently in every classroom. Either,
No.
so.
I've been asking just different kids, like, when you got that, or has any teacher mentioned they can see everything you do if you're on that? And the answers are, as you would expect,
Yeah.
quite well. It's a lot of teachers, right? Everyone's not going to handle it the same way, but some kids had no idea.
Well, I think then it goes to the next
Kids were
section.
very aware.
I think this conversation that we're having goes perfectly along with the next section,
All
section
right,
5.
well, before we get there,
Okay, just because the no privacy guarantee.
I know it's in there. I'm just saying, I would, if you took a poll of the kids that this actually is the policy for, it'd be interesting to know how many have any clue that they have no privacy. Because this is a new year. They're used to their personal devices, which they thought they had privacy in. They didn't really last year, but anyway.
I'm not sure how much privacy is cherished by this generation.
No, but don't you think it's fair to know my teacher can see everything I'm doing?
Absolutely.
That's all I'm
I
saying.
just, I remember hearing about the use of the internet years ago and how people are living life out loud. That was the terminology that was used. And the concept of, it's out there. I'll put it out there. You'll
Yeah.
put it out there. We're going to share. It is what it is. I don't know to what extent privacy is as important as it once was. Maybe
Well,
I'm being naive
I
here. I
can't
don't know.
judge how important it is to an individual. I'm just saying
Sure.
disclosure.
Right.
I'm not trying to judge. Anyway,
I
this one,
think this is very important that we have it here
yeah,
and that we express that.
absolutely. Up above this bullet right here, revealing the personal address, telephone number, or other personal information of oneself or another person. So if I was a student and I shared my phone number with a classmate using my school Gmail account, that's not okay.
It's frowned upon
Mhm.
because everything is foilable and emails can be shared and accessed. So if I send my email to you, who says that the other student can't send that information to someone else? Or my locker number, I share it with RG, then RG then shares it with someone else and shares it with someone else. So we're putting those things in saying, these are the safety guards, right? That we want people to understand. These are safe ways to be able to teach kids how to do things. So that's kind of why that's in there. Again, this is NISBA policy and NISBA
Well, I'm just-
recommendations based off of legal issues, but that's where it's coming from,
Yeah,
is that when you're putting your own information down, that's PPI, that's your personal information,
Mhm.
and that can be shared. So, and everything's spoilable as well. So that's important.
I was
All emails
just
are. Yeah, but that's
surprised
what,
that-
I think the real intent of this, tell me what you think, Frank, was to deal with situations where someone was sharing someone else's personal information
Right.
in an effort to harass, annoy, alarm.
Right. Yep.
Right.
Kind of-
That's,
I get that
you
part.
know, that I think, I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying in terms of teaching students. to
But
protect
it
their
is, it's all-
information.
coverages.
I bet you're right. I bet it's sharing someone else's information. And, oh, hey, let's gang up on her. Here's her email address.
Right.
Here's her
Here's
phone
your teacher's
number.
phone number, let's all
Yeah, let's
prank call her
go
tonight.
Right.
prank her.
Not
Yeah,
that anybody
part I
does
totally
that
get.
anymore,
yeah, I
but,
can see that.
This says of oneself,
yeah.
which I'm like, wait, I don't see how someone would be in trouble for sharing their phone number if it was their choice.
We can take it off then. If you don't want that in there, I'm fine with it, but
It just caught my eye. I don't feel
Do you wanna
strongly.
delete it?
I don't know how other
I
people
think,
feel.
I think that, I don't know what you think, but this is a school network for school instructional purposes. If you want to give someone your
Yeah.
phone number, fine. If it's like a school study group or something,
Right.
then I might feel differently, but I think this is geared toward keeping the network for instructional,
Yeah.
school-related purposes. So
I don't,
I'm okay with it. I don't think you would discipline if
No.
someone,
I was
you
gonna
know.
say it's.
there's
We
certain
have a
things,
policy,
there's
and
levels,
here's my number,
right?
call me.
Like there's levels of things that get accomplished, but
I mean,
again, we don't have people monitoring everybody's actions either. It's like the cameras, we have them, but we're not monitoring them 24 hours a day.
You wouldn't be able to. Well, you could hire a lot of people, but I didn't have anything in any of the other bullets.
You may want to keep it in there for the day when it might come in handy.
That's where I always, if somebody put it in there, they put it in there for a reason, in my mind. Because it's always that one-off case or that one-off time that it happened.
I think that's got a period right here.
That's left, so we're gonna be in charge of
Okay.
full updating.
Does anyone have any other typos or edits in section 4?
Nope.
Tim, you good?
I'm good.
You good? Okay.
Even though we don't want students accessing the district's network, we can't always safeguard or control everything that happens because there's always issues that come up. So that's why we have that still in there. If a student is using their personal device to access the district network, we're very clear that their personal files must be, different.
I didn't really know what that meant. So if I'm on my cell phone on the internet,
I asked Shauna the same thing because I wasn't completely sure in it.
then
She
I'm
was
using
saying-
the school's Wi-Fi on my phone.
Well, the school's Wi-Fi
Won't work on the phone.
should not have network access. We're working on making sure that
Okay.
we're making on those levels because right now it does sometimes have network access and we're trying to get rid of that. So again, we're trying to only give the icing, not the cake.
Mm-hmm.
But let's say somehow you're able to get onto the network or somehow you're being able to do that and you're accessing it. We want you not to use your school account. We want you to use your personal account because again, we get access to your
Mhm.
stuff. So primary to what you were saying about, we don't want Big Brother watching or we don't want monitoring. We're actually saying don't do it. Keep them separate because we do have
can
access
see
to
you.
your school stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we're making sure people understand. And that stemmed from the conversation regarding Lightspeed last year.
Mm-hmm.
And that's easily accomplished.
This is not my world, okay? I gotta be clear. The tech stuff,
I don't know how I would do that.
no, I meet with the tech people a lot and go through it, but there's a whole different level
Yeah, okay.
that they're
All
on than I'm on. So I don't know how a lot of this is done, to be
Oh,
very
yeah.
honest with you.
2 mailboxes, I guess, or something like
Yeah,
that.
or different access codes.
All right.
Does anyone have anything with section 5?
Nope.
No.
Okay. How about section 6?
Kind of have to say that.
Yeah.
You've been warned.
The only change we made on section 7 was we didn't really understand what the district will also not be responsible for unauthorized financial obligations. We didn't get that.
So let's say, some student hacks your credit card and makes a purchase.
Mhm.
We don't have to pay for that,
Should the district pay for that?
right?
Yeah, I don't believe so.
No.
Yeah.
But, then when I read it, I was thinking of, like, what if you got hacked, or if there was a ransom, like for your data, if your systems got compromised.
I think that's different because we have to pay for that, and like that comes from our insurance. We have ransomware insurance, and like we have those coverages. But I think we're stuck on that.
Well, I mean, didn't it happen in Waynesburg that there was some hack into?
2.5 million.
Yeah. That's what I'm thinking that's
Yeah.
referred to, is some outside agency, some
Yeah.
hacker gets in, steals it, Now, I don't know if that belongs in this policy. Maybe
That was through a bank, though. It was a little bit different.
yeah, a little different thing. Well, that was kind of what happened, right?
Another scenario could be your network goes down, somebody who's trying to gain some financial benefit that they otherwise would have been entitled to had they been able to push submit, can't do it, they missed the deadline. Now they're suing you saying, but for this, I would have X.
Yeah.
You can just say, so sad, too bad.
We're fine with this in the way it's written.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Kind of where I'm.
But, so we're gonna leave that deleted, that one sentence?
I think the rest of it covers it.
Oh, all right.
Do you think we need the deleted sentence, Archie? Should we
Yeah,
put that
I
back
look at
in,
this,
or-
this one that you've deleted as saying, hey, you know, we're not gonna be obligated for costs, financial obligations if we get hacked.
Well, it's also if somebody's using the district network and they lose some money, should we be obligated to do it because they lost money when
Here's
they're on our
another
network?
one, somehow.
You know, I don't think we should be.
Coming up with these.
But
Somehow
that's what I'm saying.
some
I don't
kid-
think the district should be obligated because someone's on our network and they have unforeseen financial obligations.
Right, some kid, you know, gets, his parents' credit card and through our network starts buying Fortnite dollars.
Yeah.
Right?
We shouldn't be obligated.
The parent could look to us and say, you should have blocked that activity from happening.
Right.
You owe me this money.
Let's say-
Keep it in. I
or-
don't see any harm in keeping it in.
Okay, then let's do that then.
Right? I mean, we've just come up with 4 different
Yeah.
scenarios where they're.
Do you know how to get rid of
financial
that?
claims.
Do you know how to get rid of the underline? Does anyone got
That's a
that?
strike through.
Go into like format text, be able to delete the strike through.
Not working.
I'm trying to find it.
Format. Right there.
You got it?
Oh.
Good.
Thought I did.
But this is really aimed at
Still there.
student behavior, am I correct?
If anyone who uses our network, this is a network policy.
Including the business office.
It's all
including-
of us.
Okay, all right.
Hold on, I'm doing this fast. I guess I have to.
So this is under the heading of computer use and instruction regulation.
How do you turn the strike through off? I thought if I clicked on it, it would go away, but it's not. Oh, there it goes. I guess it was.
All right,
Unless someone else did it behind the scenes.
Not me.
Right.
Maybe it was just slow to respond.
luckily it wasn't me.
All right.
Good?
Anything on this one? So these would be revisions again that we could bring for a final read, correct?
Correct.
All right,
In this group though, I did notice we had a 4526.1 internet safety that kind of goes with this, and a 4526.1R, which is the regulation. I didn't see anything in 4526.1.
Can I see them?
Yeah,
I didn't look at those.
So.
The regulation one, I guess I didn't really have any problems with it. Some of it, I was just kind of surprised.
but they're not cross-referenced in our policy.
Well, these cross-reference the one we just did.
Oh, okay. Oh, the one we just did?
Hmm.
Yeah,
It's not listed at the bottom though, right?
right. I wasn't sure how the cross-reference worked. Like sometimes it feels like
They might not
they're
have.
listed even if they're not mentioned, if it's the
Hmm.
same topic. Sometimes it seems like it's listed only if,
I feel like they don't put the cross references for the regulations. Am I wrong on that?
That may be right.
the 4526.1,
Think you may be
that's
right.
not the regulation though, right?
No, this is a separate policy
Yeah.
directing the superintendent to basically use filtering and blocking technology to block depictions that are obscene, pornographic, inclusive of adults
That's
or
fine.
children.
You seem
Yeah.
fine to me.
Yeah, you want that.
Before our discussion today, I wasn't sure how we were doing it all, but you answered all
Oh, we have
my little questions on there.
layers on layers.
But that's not being updated. That's just,
To me, it seemed like it was fine, so I didn't know if we want to like I don't know how that works. If you're touching them anyway, should we put a new date on them, or do we not do that because we don't change?
No, if you
anything?
touch them and don't change anything, you're good.
Okay.
You can write a note. There's a way to write a note saying that you reviewed it and the date you reviewed it, but like keep like your own policy manual. So that way, if you're looking like 5 years from now, hey, did anyone review
Yeah, why'd
policy
we touch
45,
this and-
26.1? You just say board reviewed on left
No change.
plane. So that way, if somebody comes back and says, well, it hasn't been touched since 2003, we're like, no, actually it was.
Yeah,
They
that's
just
what I
didn't do
wasn't
anything.
sure.
So I've seen that before where a board can keep a little like notebook. It's really,
At the very bottom of, let's say this regulation, it has a first reading, an adoption date, a revision date.
Right.
You could have something that says, review date. We didn't change anything, but we reviewed it on
Yeah.
X number date if you want to.
I
But
don't
if
know
it's
how
on the
people feel.
books,
Has Shauna reviewed this one? Like it uses like,
no, that was not one that's been brought to our attention.
it says like internet with a capital I and then World
World
Wide
Wide
Web.
Web.
It all,
Yeah.
capital W's. Like it, some of it just seems a little dated.
So
She might want to tweak it.
All right, let me have her read it again.
And do the R while you're at it too.
Yeah, I don't think it needs any
Here, can I just
major
have one?
changes, but it does seem just.
Don't
the
mind my
language seems
questions,
a
No, it's fine.
Little dated.
If they're already printed, then I can just read Shauna. For up to date. Perfect.
She's, Artie's just taking a quick look at
Yep.
the,
I mean, the .1R goes into
I know.
a lot of detail about the Children's Internet Protection Act.
That's why I wanted, didn't know if it made sense to.
Let's have her look at it.
You're gonna see my little red questions.
No, that's
not-
fine. That's actually probably better to
I'm
have
not
them.
questioning how the policy is written, more just that's questions to myself.
No, that's fine.
It
You're
also,
good.
it also uses like computer network coordinator. I thought we came up with a different title for Shauna.
Yeah,
Or
we-
she's still the computer network coordinator.
She is our tech integration specialist, but we have a network coordinator through Merrick.
Okay, all right.
She doesn't do our network.
you just have her look at it.
And there's a lot of layers here, like technology wise. Like 3 years ago, we had 2 people doing all this work. Now we have 7 people doing a lot of this because it just needs to be.
The world,
Yeah.
we don't have 5695.
We don't currently have that, and Frank and Shauna's recommendation was, it was already covered between the code of conduct and what we did
We don't
today,
need it.
Yeah.
Okay.
that we
All right.
don't need it.
It was just one of the ones that they said you can have if you want.
Okay. All right.
So I'm comfortable with that when I looked at it versus what we have in the other ones, if everybody else is.
It's very productive.
Are we there?
I think
Um,
we're on to the.
Right, so that's all for the detailed review, but number 4 in the agenda, we still have, did you want to see this, or you want to just let
No,
Sean?
I'll wait to see the recommendation.
Let me make sure I didn't write anything incriminating on this one.
I think so.
Okay. All right, so for this group, this dates back to, we tabled this at the last meeting too, but this was NISBA recommended updates to policy 0115, which is student harassment and bullying prevention and intervention. And that was because of a Supreme Court ruling and some changes to the Crown Act. And they also had recommendations for their policy called 5205, eligibility for co-curricular and extracurricular activities, which we don't have at Voorheesville, but we have a whole bunch of other policies that cover these things, just a different number.
5281 really hits it.
5280, 5281. I made a whole list.
Yeah, they're right here. My problem.
Yes. but also just and then they also had some recommendations for changes to your code of conduct. So when Frank and I started discussing these, and Archie and Tim, your input is lovely too, I was realizing it touched 5,200 of our policies. 5,200R, 5205 is NISBA's recommendation. We don't have that, would be new if we wanted it. It also hit of our existing policies, so 5210, 5225, 5280, 5281, 5300, and then also we have an athletic code of conduct. So Frank and I are
And
like,
extracurricular code of conduct.
yes.
Yeah.
So this is a pretty big thing if we want to try to, when we do it, make sure we hit the whole spider web. So then Frank had a lovely recommendation.
Yeah, so Tricia asked me what my recommendation was, and I said, give me some time because I have to wrap my head. And then she sent more today, and I got really confused. But I think my recommendation would be threefold. And I want to read down what I told you today, Tricia, because I forgot. So here's what I was thinking. The code of conduct, I think, is something I can review along with 0115. Look at those all together. I want the building principals to look at it because I think it's also a good time to look at practice. Like here's our procedures, and here's our policy, but is our procedure and practice also the same? So I'd like to take our code of conduct, give you an initial kind of set a time frame for this, because I can't do all of these at the same time. You got to tell me which ones you want to look at when. And then
none of them were.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like anything crazy.
I don't think, no. I
set
don't-
an initial time frame and then do
Immediate.
them, and then do the same thing with the athletic ones, because the athletic and extracurricular ones kind of all go together. Chunk that, do this very similar thing, and then the organization one, actually I want to take on its own. I'd like to actually, because I want to look at
Which one is that? 52.
5210 student organizations. We don't have a procedure or policy, procedure or practice on written procedure or practice in the district on how to create clubs.
Oh.
There's a thought process. There's like, well, you have to do for this long in order to get it, but there's nothing codified anywhere that I could find here about what the practice is and what has to be presented and done. So I'd actually like to work on that on my level too. Like, yeah, I can look at the policy, but I really want to work with the unions to really develop a good practice on how a club is developed and how a club is taken away. Because we have clubs on the contract that have not been in the district for years. They're still in the contract. So I really kind of want to clean that up a little bit.
They're in the
That's all right.
contract, but nobody's been assigned.
Oh, yeah, so,
Advisor,
right, there's no
no
advisors.
stipend being paid for it.
Right, there's no stipend, but then there's MOAs on top of MOAs
Yeah.
that have new clubs. So it's like, there's got to be a practice to like keep things up to date and current for kids and then continue moving them forward. It's just, there's not any good practice that I've seen. So I'd like to clean it.
So in terms of the code of conduct that we just approved though,
Yeah.
even with these changes, I think our language is broad enough to encompass things like the Crown Act, the Dignity for All Students Act. So I don't think there's anything urgent.
Right, I think this is June, right? Code of conduct could be like, by the time we
Yeah,
get to
We could
June.
work on this
Yeah.
over several months.
Yeah.
You're talking about the 5,200?
Yeah,
Okay.
the athletic code of conduct, again, I think can be reviewed. I'd like to actually have, personally, I want to look at the policies, but I'd actually like Joe to look what other schools do for code of conduct for extracurricular and athletics and kind of bring them back and see if we are doing the same practices of other places. I'd just like an audit basically of our code of conduct, our athletic and extracurricular code of conduct. If that's all right.
I think that makes sense. I mean, the suggestion in the NISBA one is you can identify a grade point average, minimum grade point average. I'm not a big fan of that.
No.
We have 65 in our current policy.
Yeah, we actually have a policy that has it in there.
5281. I know, I didn't know either until Tricia
Yeah.
pointed it out
Same, and I
today.
don't know how
I'm not
I
a big
feel about that.
Fan of
Yeah,
I get the point that if you want somebody to focus on studies, some kids focus better on studies if they have the extracurricular.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there's a benefit to kicking a kid off.
well, there's not, they don't kick them off. They give them, what I was reading in the policy was they give them an opportunity to find a way to get back on. So I worked in a former district where that was really important, right? Because prior to me taking over, we didn't have scholar athlete teams, and we didn't have issues, and we had kids that played sports that weren't passing courses. The sports were so important, the extracurriculars and the dramas and all these things were so important because it was a way to get our kids to be able to graduate. So it actually increased our graduation rate. So in
Okay.
some schools where these are generic written policies, our extracurriculars actually helped our graduation rate increase because we had expectations based on it. Here's a little
I
different.
agree with
because
that philosophy.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I
Here,
never thought
we
of
have a
it
lot
that
of
way.
high-performing students, so it's moot, right? It's a little bit different. But in another district where I was, that really was so important. We had a graduation of 60%, and we got it up to 90%, and a lot of it was based off getting kids off the
Motivated
street
through
and
this.
into extracurriculars. So that's why there is an
Okay.
importance to it.
Mhm.
But here, not as much. It's a bit
It's
different.
a privilege, not a right.
So that's why you see them in other districts and why they function really well.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, this came up because of many reasons. But
Yeah.
I think everyone's aware of the Albany situation where they kicked kids off the track and the discrimination was involved, blah, blah, blah. I think some of these updates, we're trying to address some of that, as well as that cheerleader case.
Would you like me
You
to
know
look
that
at
case?
certain
Yeah,
policies?
the Supreme Court case.
But-
Is there
Supreme
any
Court.
certain policies out of those that you guys want me to look into? Because I'll bring these to Sean on 4526 and the other one. But are there any of these multiples here that you want me to get
The
ready? or prepare?
5200 group.
Yeah, like the 5280s, 5210,
Well,
or just,
shouldn't that be like a next batch we deal with?
yeah, but I want to be able to review them with our athletic director and principals, and because I wanted to see if their practices are up to speed.
I haven't, done the research to go back to our policy manual
neither.
and pick them out.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you
I can
have,
send
I
the
trust yours, but
I can send a list of,
I
well,
have-
yeah,
I can actually make copy. I have them.
I'm not
right here.
suggesting my list is 100%.
yeah, no, I just haven't done it.
I was just
so.
poking around and that's what I came up with. There might be
Yeah.
other,
I printed everything that you
I did
gave me
too.
today, so I can read them. So do you want to put 5200 on for next time, and then I can have initial conversations?
Can I
5200.
ask you,
Yeah.
how do you use Jessica? You call her up and say, hey, we want to look at a fresh review of the 5200 section.
Yeah.
Can you send us your most current recommendation?
Yeah,
Is that what you do now?
Yeah, that's what we do.
Okay.
and she creates the Google folder.
Now he's saying Jessica Goldstein.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, Jessica
It
Goldstein.
took me a second
I'm
too, but I
sorry,
figured
I didn't mean that. Jessica Goldstein is the head of their,
Yeah,
she's
I
our
have
policy
The two
person.
Jessicas, yes.
And, because I want to use her services, we're
Yeah.
paying for it,
Oh, yeah.
so. We don't need to do this all ourselves when you have somebody working for you like.
No, but we need, when we review them, what I mean by review is different than that. I take their policy, I take our policy,
Right.
and then I look at our procedures and practice and see if they're there. Because a lot of times, districts might have policies been here since 2003, but their procedures and practice do not match what their policy is. And it might be understood that that's okay, it just
Yeah.
hasn't been updated. So
Well,
that's,
I just want to make sure that we're utilizing that service that we're paying for.
oh, I
as
think
much as
we are.
possible.
I think we're doing it more now than we have.
Okay, good.
I've been asking a lot of questions, just trying to figure it out myself.
No, I don't think that's a bad thing.
So all of a
though.
sudden, I do notice that NISBA has an updated policy index as of 9/19/22.
We'll call that the Trisha Poppin policy
I was
index.
always trying So, when we have an old policy here, I'm like, well, let me see what the NISBA one is, and then you can't.
Yeah.
Because I just thought I could go look.
Good.
I've learned. So anyway. So Frank, you're saying one group, which is the code of conduct in 0115, is going to be basically
Long-term.
by June.
Long term.
Another group is what we're saying is the 5200. So just so you guys know, there's 5200 extracurricular activities, and there's a 5200R that goes with that.
That was updated in 2013.
If you're going to do them, you want to just
Yep.
make sure. At 5210 is the student organizations that Frank was saying he really wants to give justice to. 5225 is not ours, but that was the NISBA recommendation, right? Which is student personal expression.
Yeah.
I don't know if we want it or don't want it, but that was one of their.
Well, I wonder if that's in the code of conduct.
Could be,
I think it is. There's definitely references.
Yeah.
Right.
References to it.
Well,
wait,
that's what I was wondering. Like,
Wait,
is it
52
already there?
That's an ominous title. I'll
no,
say
we
that.
do actually, we do have
Yeah.
5225.
But I think I
Out
put
of
that-
this,
Hold on, I grouped these.
Supreme Court case.
I put 5225. Sorry, I
I
put
don't know.
5225 in the
Title
code
is-
of conduct pile.
Okay,
A little less
Yeah,
than explicit.
sorry. So
Yeah.
my code of conduct pile
has
Not-
5225.
So I have an athletic extracurricular kind of thing, and then I have the code of conduct, and my code of conduct pile has the 5300s, 0115, and the 5225.
Okay.
I kind of group them
And
as the code of
those are
conduct
gonna-
review for the 5300. Because when you sent that email today, it literally took
I
me an
know.
hour but that's a lot of work that you did, so hats off to you on it. And then the 5210 and all the other ones that you sent.
So
50
5200, 5210, oh, 5200R, sorry.
5210,
5210 is student organization.
5205, which we don't have.
5205 was a NISBA.
Yep.
We don't have, so you're gonna look at that
Yep.
within those?
And see if it makes sense.
Mhm.
Frank, in 5225, there's a section on distribution of materials.
Yeah.
So if a student wants to distribute something within the school, it sets out a process for them to request permission
Yep.
and then process to appeal if they're denied. That I'm not recalling being in the code of conduct.
Yeah, no, it might
So
not be.
that might be one piece that we want to consider breaking out.
Yeah. Well, this actually is a pretty big deal now. Like, there's a lot of this, like,
Yes.
nationally going around, so I definitely think it's. Why don't we take 5225 on its own? Even if it's not in the code of conduct, just look at this policy as a board. You want to do
Next
that?
agenda?
I think
Yeah,
so.
you can. I think
There's some hot button topics that
Yeah,
are nationally in
there
there.
So
Mhm.
why don't we put it on our agenda?
That's
Yeah, that's
for
what I'm
our
saying,
next
yeah.
meeting,
Yeah.
not board.
No,
No,
the
policy,
next
that's what I meant.
policy.
Yeah, because that one, there is a lot, there's some hot button topics in there
There is.
nationally.
Yeah, personal expression, I do not like that title. I don't even know what
Can,
that means.
Can Jess look if there's anything in our current policies that would hit on these topics?
Yeah, I'll have her do
Because
research on it.
there's different pieces of this.
You had freedom of speech or expression, I could live with.
So Frank, in that group of athletic ones you're taking together, also is 5280 and 5281?
Yes.
Okay.
that was- yep.
So you guys know 5280 is interscholastic and modified sports, and 5281 is interscholastic athletics academic eligibility policy. So Frank is gonna work with Joe on that whole group. Are we putting a time frame? Do you want a time frame? Do you want to come back in pieces, or
Yeah,
how do you want to?
I don't know, you tell me.
Well, I don't know how much work it is. I can imagine just from reading them
It's a
today.
Well, I mean, should we have a little bit of it ain't broke?
A little bit of what?
If it ain't broke, let's not
Yeah.
hurry to fix it.
Sure.
How about I give you a report on that?
An update of sorts
In
of the
November.
process.
Yeah. How
Okay.
about I give you an update?
What other districts are doing on these types of policies?
Yeah, or just, how about just an update of where I am with the
Okay.
review of them?
Yeah.
Because
sure.
I might find because I really haven't read them yet and dug in deep. So when I dig in, maybe I'll find things that, oh, we can fix this now. Here's the low hanging fruit. This is easy,
Yeah.
and there might be things that then we have to really get.
Or
rid
you
of.
might say, this is fine as is.
Oh, it could be.
And I'm kind of hoping that there's a lot of that.
Some of the policies seem like they probably were fine. The athletic code of conduct definitely had stuff in there that we're not doing, which isn't just like code night.
Oh, we're doing code night.
Well,
We're bringing it back.
What is it?
It's code day though.
What's
Okay.
code
Well,
day?
what were you going to say about it?
well, I mean, that's been there. We haven't been doing it for years.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, it's
Well, I'm bringing it back because my problem is the code of conduct is I've already said, like I said, they're signing it, but do they know about it? Are
No.
we teaching it?
What's
So,
code day?
well, code day now is going along with our
Day.
health and wellness day. So in October, how we're doing this, and unfortunately it's a little late because we already have our fall sports, but October, we're bringing in Narcan training for our community and dangers. During the day, I'm having ACCA come in, and they're actually bringing a roundtable of people in recovery, and they're mid-20s, like early 20s, so the kids who started, and people want to talk about their journey in.
Is that what I talked to you about that one time?
Yep. I told you I was going to, so that's coming in October. On top of that day, we're going to veer out our students who are in extracurricular clubs activities, and we're going to have them have a separate training all about the code of conduct. And that's all about using drugs and how it impacts all the different things. So we're having that kind of code night built into the school day, because we found that if you do it at night, not everything comes. So, and if we also build that in as a wellness, as a school, we're focusing this on our own health. It's not like we're targeting just those kids, we're teaching everybody. Because sometimes I feel like with those things, we're only targeting the kids who are doing stuff, so the kids who aren't doing anything don't get anything. It's got to be twofold.
Parents involved in that at all?
Not during the day. During the night, yes, they're going to be more welcome, but during the day, we really want to make it a health and wellness opportunity for the kids.
I shared with Frank that a friend of mine came in to vote and was looking around for posters or something that were Narcan related or something that was, don't do this, don't do that, related to drugs, because his son, a graduate of the school years ago, overdosed and died.
Mm.
And this guy's he's never gotten over it. And kind of came at me, and I said, well, Frank and I talked a little bit, and he said he was going to do this night. And I said, you want to, you can reach out to this guy. I mean, he's a dad who went through this experience. And I don't know how he'd play. Pretty emotional. Even all these years later, it's pretty raw. I don't know. The mother would be the better ambassador, but I don't know if she's up for it.
Yes. That's something to talk about off of the policy commission, just because of recordings and everything else, but yeah. So, but we are doing that for the kids, so we're bringing that back, because I saw
Okay.
that, that's definitely
Well,
one that I felt was important.
The other good thing about what you're saying with having a code day versus a code night, I always found that if there's kids who didn't know if they were going to do sports and then they decided to in the spring,
Yeah.
then the fall kids had to attend this code night. Spring kids,
We're trying to just get,
yeah,
I mean, the goal is to teach everybody.
teach everybody.
That's it.
Right.
Don't have a segregation of what
Yeah.
we're doing, just have it across the board.
Well, what does happen if the kid comes in spring?
Nothing.
Nothing.
And they weren't.
No one
taught.
was meant.
And what would happen if we did it right? Everybody would go.
Everybody's already
going
trained.
To code
Oh,
day,
alright,
and
okay.
so you don't have
Everybody's
to-
trained.
Everybody gets it, whether you're going to play sports or
Doesn't matter.
doesn't matter.
We're going to teach kids about, all the issues. I mean,
Gotcha.
Guess
either-
if someone was absent, you'd
Yeah.
have to deal with that.
and,
but-
and it's not about the kids being in compliance. It's about the kids understanding, like, these things can't own, they can impact your extracurriculars and stuff. They can also impact your health and future. And kids aren't getting it, So that's kind of where we're going.
Gotcha.
And I started, I've done many public speaking things regarding this before. So we have a whole plan on how it's going to work out. So, good.
Excellent, thank you.
Good.
Anything else? Got off topic.
Tim, did you want to talk at all about your request for the future agenda, or is that future?
What was my request?
You said at some point you'd like to talk about policy on budget for board development,
Yeah.
approval for attendance at in-service meetings, board orientation protocols.
Don't know what we have on the books right now. I haven't read it, so that's on me. And we might address it as far as a policy is concerned already. So I was perhaps premature when I said that.
Okay.
But in practice, it doesn't seem as if we have much interest in any board development activities. NISBA puts a lot of stuff on, CASDA puts a lot of stuff on, the BOCES do things. There's these places where board members convene for training on various issues, leadership development, things of that nature. Some boards participate, some don't. Some individual board members are interested, while the other members of the board say, that's your business, fine, I'm not interested. I mean, I'm not trying to make it something that is an obligation for anybody, but I would hope that we would kind of want to learn about certain issues and certain skill sets,
Mhm.
and be willing to go outside of our environment once in a while. A lot of times I feel as if we think of the boundaries of the world or the boundaries of the school district, and there's a big world out there that's got a lot going on. And we don't seem to really be that interested in reaching out. There's an annual convention. I'm not going, so don't worry about it. But there's an annual convention that NISBA puts on. There are a variety of different workshops and seminars that they put on. There's opportunities to engage with other school board members regionally all the time. We don't seem to do any of that. And I just thought maybe we should do that now and then.
So are you talking practice or policy?
I'm talking practice.
Practice, not policy.
Can I make a recommendation though, from off what you're thinking? Can we review the policy on that because it can have budgetary implications?
The only
And-
policies I saw was
I don't know if there is, but just because
25,
I'm going to start
21.
I start budget in 2 weeks, so and there's budget lines for board development,
Yeah,
and if that's a conversation that comes up, I'd like to make sure I budget accordingly. When we're
Agreed.
doing the development.
agreed. And I'm not thinking that this is something that we should, the sky's the limit.
Right. No, but
Go to everything and anything.
if there's a policy kind of guides what that is, then the policy can help guide or
I'm more
practically
interested in
guide
saying,
how much we budget.
I don't want to make this a big deal. If I came to you and said, hey, or came to the president and said, I'd like to go to the NISBA annual convention. And it's going to cost an overnight, 2 or 3 nights, and it's going to be travel to Syracuse, and there's going to be some meals. Am I allowed?
If we only budget 2,000, and that 2,000 is
Mhm.
already
That's what I'm
done.
saying.
That's why we have to talk about it, because I don't know
On
how
your
much.
dime.
I don't know what the budget line is.
That's what I was told
Yeah.
before.
I don't know what the
And
budget
that
line
is a response that's legitimate.
Yeah,
But in my opinion, I think it is something that a Board of Education should support.
right.
And I don't think we do. I asked the question once before, and that's exactly what I was told. That's on your dime.
No,
And I don't think that's right.
I agree with you, but, if we decide as a board it's important to do this type of development, then we just need to budget for it.
Yeah, that's my only concern. That's why I asked, if you're going to start having those conversations, let's have them by December, so that way because I really start finalizing by December and February, my draft budget's ready. I'm kind of nuts when it comes to that kind of stuff. So that's why I want to make sure that we budget accordingly for that.
Well,
Yeah.
and it may be one of those things where we have a pool of money in there, and when it's gone, it's gone.
Right. I think
And
that's
it doesn't get,
very limited. Very-
I think
it's
we have
very limited now.
1,500 or
Yeah, and I think that
It's
goes-
very little.
I think that goes from
Did we use
CASA
that for the
and
workshop?
I think it goes through the workshop and CASA and NISBA dues, and I think it's gone. I really do
yeah,
think
no, I
it's.
agree with you. And
Yeah.
it'd be one of those things, and I know that I've worked with boards before where one person sucked the whole thing up. And nobody else could go to anything because this one person traveled everywhere. And that's not right. It should be something that's available to everybody on a kind of parity at least.
And I think sometimes, just from my own experience, and Tim, you might have seen this, is that community doesn't think that sometimes the community doesn't see the purpose, but if the board is trained, then the better functioning board is better for the community. So if somebody says, well, why are you budgeting $10,000? Well, it's because training is important, right? Professional development isn't only good for teachers, it's good for everyone who governs or works in a district. So I think that's an important message as you're discussing that conversation, is that PD goes good for everyone.
I'm not overly concerned about leadership development, but I am concerned that there are times when there are issues that we should be well informed about, where there's a workshop going on
Yeah.
and it's devoted to that topic, or it's, there's a law conference that's going on and there's a whole bunch of stuff they're talking about that we should be informed about, and we don't know anything about it. And that's the kind of stuff
Oh, yeah. I just want to make sure we budget for it.
absolutely.
That's
That's why I brought it up,
Yep.
that I would hope that we would do that and it would be supported.
So I guess for next meeting, do we want to see what policy, if any, we currently have on this?
Yeah.
And then.
There's 25,
Do we
21,
have a policy on board development?
She's got it, right?
25, 21
I feel like we looked at it at one point.
is school board conference.
Oh, no, not that. I thought there was
I mean, you got mandatory school board training already.
Yep.
I mean, that's
25,
just a
21 is
given.
school board conferences, conventions,
Oh,
workshops.
there it is, right there.
So let's review that
Well,
one.
there's one that,
That was last touched in 2005. I will say, talking about budget, when we look at the report at audit with the line by line. The board line does keep going up and it catches my eye because I'm like,
Yeah, well,
wait,
it's the first
why
one.
does that keep
Yeah.
going up?
And we keep
We're not doing
exceeding the
anything.
amount that we budgeted.
Yeah, I think it was a retreat.
And it's not like we're.
But
I know.
I want to tell you
It does
though,
jump out at you.
I
though.
remember when your predecessor in this room, Al McCartney, he'd bring 3 or 4 or 5 board members to the annual convention. Voorheesville had a contingent that would go to things, and were involved,
Mhm.
and that ended. It's hasn't been something that they participated in a long, long time.
Right.
Obviously, 2005 was last looked at as a policy. But listen, I know I could come across as having a vested interest here or being a homer because I once worked in that field. I don't anymore. I have nothing to do with this, but I do think I believe it's something that we should support. And it might be in a small way, but I think we should at least have, if I came to you and said, hey, would it be okay if I went to this workshop? And it might even be locally. I don't even need overnight. I don't need travel. I just want to go to a workshop and there's a $135 registration fee. I don't want to be told that's on your own dime. Really?
No, I agree.
So are you recommending, it's on the board agenda or for our next policy?
For our
agenda?
next policy meeting, I think
Yeah.
we should figure out what it says and what else we want to be in there. Like, for example, if we're gonna send Tim to a workshop, I'd like there to be something in there that Tim then reports back to the board
Absolutely.
on
Train
what he
the trainer.
learned,
Right.
right? So that the knowledge is shared.
Do you want Jessica to reach out to Jessica? Or do you want to reach out and ask for any policies that would,
I don't care either way.
because I think that might be a good thing too, is that we reach out to Jessica Goldstein and say, give us any policies that regard board development. Right? I mean, talking about using our resources.
I've got my new index too. I could look at.
Yeah, so why don't you ask her? We're gonna pay for it.
There you go.
And Tim, I'm reflecting way back when we set up the committee schedule, you had a problem with the October date.
October 6th, I won't be here.
So I don't know, as a community, do you want to go with that one too?
Fine,
Or try to
anybody.
Don't worry
reschedule?
about me. I mean,
But you'll miss that discussion.
I will not even be in the country, so,
Find another country. I mean, find another date.
That's, you'll find a date.
What are you waiting?
I think it's the 5th through the 3rd. Oh, no. October's bad. Let me just put that.
Well, that sounds like it's good. You're gonna get out of the country.
Well, yeah. I can't participate virtually.
We can have, well, it'd have to be open to the public.
Yeah, you can.
We can have one person remote.
You can open it up wherever
We're
you're
talking
gonna
about
be
a
out of
committee
the-
meeting?
It'd be weird for your,
Yeah,
it'd be a weird time zone thing for you.
yeah, but you.
Well,
could.
that one I'm not, what happens is, as soon as we come back, we gotta go babysit. So I'm being,
So you're trying to get out of babysitting, Tim?
this would help. This would help.
Is this what I'm hearing?
Okay, so I will be gone October 5 through 7 until 17.
Oh.
So, but I honestly think you can go without me, but
What about-
I can tell you the dates that I will be
October
back I will be back in the country on probably the 14th. 14, 15, 16, 17 is when I got a babysit.
So 18, 19?
So I would prefer not to do the 18th. We got tickets to go see Aladdin that night.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
No
so-
problem.
I have tech committee on the 19th, but I can get out of that. I can have other people run it.
20th is good.
I'm out 20th.
If you guys can do the 19th, I can make the 19th worth. I have multiple people, but the tech committee's like got 12 people
Go a
on it.
little later.
And I don't run the tech committee.
I
So
can do the 19th any day, anytime.
you want to do 3:30 on the 19th? For policy or 4 or
Definitely.
4:30?
October 19th at 3:30,
Yeah,
that works.
okay.
I can do that too.
All right, thank you.
Make sure I take it off the 6th, because I will forget.
And hold on.
18th.
It was on the 6th.
It was on the 6th, yeah.
All right. Okay.
I think,
3:30.
you said the invite, so you'll just have to
I
update
just-
the invite.
Just took care of that.
Awesome.
3:30.
Yep, I just sent you another invite just now. And then let me email communications. Change it on the Google Calendar.
While he's doing that, do you guys have anything else for this meeting? No? Anything else you want to add for next meeting? I can send out kind of what we talked about adding to the agenda for next meeting in an email if that's helpful to you guys.
Sure.
And a list of the policies that I found connected with things. How about you, Frank? Is
No,
there anything
good.
else you want us
Thank-
to add?
No, just thank you for all the work that you did for
Yeah,
this.
thanks, Trish.
It was very well done.
So then, shall we officially conclude this meeting for our recording? Everybody good?
Yep.
Okay.
Let me turn it up.